So for today, I decided that I would like to talk about home care RN supervision. There tends to be a lot of confusion around the RN going in and what they need to do when it's time to do the supervisory visit. Just for background, we know that if you have an in-home aide license in North Carolina, that should schedule a supervisory visit with your aide or with your clients every 90 days. And that is exactly 90 days. You should count the number of days and do it 90 days or before. If you are a companion agency, you can do it every 3 months. And on both of those, on one of those visits, the aide should be in the home so that you see them there. There's some advantages to the aide not being there when you go, because if you go there and the aide is not there, there are many times that you get more information from the client when the aide is not present. So when I did my supervisory visits, I would go in if the aide was on duty and I wanted to do a supervisory visit. I did not call and schedule it. If the aide was there between 8 and 11 and I wanted to go between 8 and 11, I felt comfortable showing up because the aide was there and I didn't think I needed to call the client. However, there were times when I would go out when the aide wasn't there. So at those times, I would call the client and say, I'm near your house. I want to come by for a visit. And most of the time they would say, okay. So that's how I was able to get mine in and kind of manage my schedule. So what I wanted to do today is to talk about exactly what does it mean? What does aide supervision mean? It means that the RN is going to provide appropriate oversight and supervision of the services. Our clients come to us because they need some type of a service. They need bathing, dressing, they may need some little light housekeeping, but whatever we contract with them to do, the RN or the supervisor, if it's just a companion service, you need to be sure that those services are being provided in the manner that they should by your employees. So that is what we're talking about, going to the home to be sure those services are provided. Now, if something happens before those 90 days are up, you can always go ahead of time. You can record that as a supervisory visit. However, you would need to reset the date for the next visit, which you're probably doing that anyway. But if you go by that home, extra times a year, that's perfectly fine. But that is what you're there for. So one of the things that you're going to look out for when you go for a supervisory visit is that you're going to be sure, well, when you hired that person, you should have had them demonstrate that they were competent to perform basic tasks as an employee or aide on your staff. So hopefully when they got hired, you have some way that they demonstrated that to you. Maybe you have a lab in your office, you have a conference room and a mannequin, or you have two people to perform as many tasks as you can. We know that you can't do everything in the office. Some of those things you have to talk through. And I was always surprised when I was doing those competency verifications that there were a lot of things that some of the aides just didn't recall. Say if they've been working in home care for a really long time, they're not encountering as many things as they would in a facility or a hospital. So we would kind of go head to toe talking about the client. And then if I came to a point where there was something that they didn't remember, we would reiterate it. So you're letting them demonstrate their competency as well as you're doing some teaching. And it helps you to get to know your aides pretty well. You kind of know what their weaknesses are. You know what kind of clients you can put them with. You get to know their personality. You know, if they kind of don't answer something in the right way, did you get a positive result, or did they smile, or did they seem disappointed? So you really get to see their personality. And one of the key things about doing assignments with clients and aides is that you really need to get that right if you can. You're matching up personalities. There's so much that you're doing there that is unspoken. And you all that do that, I know you know exactly what I'm saying. So when you go out to do the supervision, you're going to be sure that whatever that aide is supposed to do in that home, they are able to do it and that they're doing it well. Another thing you may want to do is when you assign a new aide to a client, you might want to let them work a couple of days and then call them and ask them, kind of really, did I get it right? Are you with the right person? Can you perform the task? Is this too much for you? Is the care plan, does it have too much on it? Once you got there and started working with the person, because when you go in as the RN to do the assessment, you're doing that blindly. You're going a lot on what the client says they're capable of doing. But once the aide gets there, it may change. So it's really good on a new client to check in with the aide to be sure that everything matches up well. So on that supervisory visit, you do need to review the care plan. And that's sort of what I was talking about then. You need to make sure that that care plan is appropriate. That means it has the right task on it, the right amount of time, that everything is clear. And with that client, you want to be sure you check to see what their response is. If they wanted to get a shower 3 times a week, you need to check with them and say, is this still sufficient? It's summertime now. Do you want to take a shower every day? Just make sure that the client provides input as well as the aide. And I mentioned previously that when you go out to visit a client and the aide is not there, sometimes you get a little more information than when they're there. Hopefully it's the same, but sometimes you can ask different questions. Many times when I'd go visit a client, we would sit down maybe at the kitchen table. I'm recalling one client, we sit at the kitchen table and that aide would sit right there with us. Everything that was said, she was right there. So I really needed to go there at times when she wasn't, because I wanted to hear things that, maybe the client wouldn't tell me while she was there. And once you do that supervisory visit, there may be things that need to be changed. The care plan may need to be changed. The aide may need some additional education. Say if the client was up walking around doing really well 3 months ago, and now all of a sudden something has happened, they have a walker or a cane or whatever, you probably want to be sure that that aide knows how to assist them with the walker, assist them with the cane, that she knows how to appropriately put the walker away in an area so that, no one trips. Just things that you think someone would know, but don't ever take that for granted. Make sure you double check. And then any other corrective action that you can think of that aide might need to be doing or that the client might need to do. You do that with the follow-up. So on your supervisory visit form, there should be an area where you annotate that you reviewed the care plan, that you reviewed the aide's performance and all these things we're talking about. And then an area, if any of those things change, you want to annotate it and you want to follow up and make sure that those things get done for the future. So this is a short meeting today. It's Friday. I wanted to give you all some information today. And I always like to tell you all that whatever I present to you on these meetings, I'm really diligent about making sure that the information is accurate. But before you change anything in your agency, make sure you go to the regulatory agency, be it DHSR or the Labor Board, the IRS, whomever you need to go to, that is the final authority on anything that you're doing in your business. Make sure you check with them before you make a change to your business.